Folks, I had the opportunity today to interview Mark Bradbury. For those of you that don't know Mark, he has a Facebook page, Manta and Manabi, Expats and Amigos. It's a Facebook page that I mentioned several times on this channel. I recommend to everybody, if you plan on moving to Ecuador and you want to come to Manta, join this group, join Mark's page. There is a plethora of information and resources, unlimited resources that you can use to help you with your journey to Ecuador. I had an interview with him today. I've become friends with Mark since I've been here. He has a lot of useful information. He has a huge group. I think he has around 5,000 members. Some of the nicest people you'll ever want to meet are members of his page. Check it out, join the group, bookmark it, and watch the interview right after this. Hey! Roger, Rocket Chick, Roger, hello there. Here I am sitting with Mark Bradbury.
Morning.
Everybody knows Mark Bradbury that lives in Manta.
Well, maybe.
I mean, I was here for probably 3 weeks before, 4 weeks before I finally got to meet you, and that was just through a mutual friend.
Yep.
Anyway, I remember years ago when I started researching coming to Ecuador, I remember reading an actual International Living magazine, and I saw an article in there, and the author of the article was Mark Bradbury, you know?
Correct, yeah.
So just kind of briefly tell us, what were you doing there and what are you doing now as far as International Living magazine? Because I know that it's still around.
Oh yeah,
but
definitely.
I don't know what your involvement is in it.
Yeah, International Living has changed a lot of their operation. They've had a major flip with editors in their company across the board, and a lot of new people I haven't worked with. The editors that I worked with previously when I did articles for them have all moved on to other places, and I was told it had a lot to do with the pandemic, that people were cut and things downsized and whatever, but they seem to be making a comeback. They're publishing more stuff now, and I'm getting more notices about things, but I was asked by one of their editors when I lived in Olón if I would do an article about the Olón area, and that's how I got started. And over the years, several years of writing for them, I've probably done 10 or 12 articles. Yeah. The article you saw about Manta, I think it was.
I don't remember, because this was
probably was
a long time ago. Yeah.
If you go to International Living and you go to the Ecuador site and you flip on Manta, when you come to Manta, you'll see an article. It was written by me, and it's basically the introductory welcoming page, if you will, for the Manta International Living group. So I'm proud to say that I wrote that, and most of that is still true to this day. Yeah. And as I said, I've written 10 or 12 articles for them.
Oh, cool.
I'm not lately. I haven't written anything for them probably in the last year.
And I think we know why, too, and we're going to get to that in just a minute.
Okay. Then I won't talk about it.
All right. So when did you come to Ecuador?
6.5 years ago.
Why did you come here?
I started looking into expating out. I was living in Florida for 20 years. My family was all in the Boston area, and I just thought, well, you know, I think I'm just going to look around. I've kind of always been a restless gypsy spirit, if you will. Enjoy traveling and getting new jobs, new careers, whatever. So I really had no fear to try something new. So I started looking around, and I originally settled on the Algarve area of southern Portugal. It was beautiful. And it had everything that I was looking for, a seashore, you know, just everything. Everything kind of flipped my ticket, and I announced that to my family at Thanksgiving dinner when I went back for holidays, and I said that I was moving to Portugal, southern Portugal, and it kind of freaked them all out.
Did they believe you?
Yes, they know well enough to believe anything I tell them, because when I say I'm doing something, it's usually not far from being done. So yeah, and so they kind of freaked out, especially my parents, and So I said, my dad, so basically I said, well, maybe I should look at, maybe staying on this side of the pond. And I started looking into Central America, Mexico, Belize, Honduras, Guatemala, Costa Rica, all the way down into Panama. And nothing checked all my boxes.
Yep.
There were weather issues, there were immigration issues, just lots of different things. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so I said, well, let's start look at South America. And I, at that time, was subscribing to International Living, and I flipped it open to an article about Cotacache up in the mountains, northern Ecuador. And although I'm not a mountain guy, the article intrigued me because they talked about everything that was available here in Ecuador. Got me intrigued enough to go out and start to do a little research on it, start to look at the coastal areas, because I always wanted to be on the coast. I'm an ocean guy. I need to be on the coast. I need to feel the salt air in my face occasionally, and being in the mountains was not of interest to me at all. So I started researching, and I read everything and anything I could find, both in International Living, the New York Times, I mean, you name it, World Travelers Guide, whatever it was about Ecuador, I started reading it. And as I did, I started to get a sense of this being a place where I might want to be.
Yeah.
And so, that being decided, I started to narrow down different cities, different areas along the coast that I would probably be comfortable in. And I actually had settled on the town of Bahia de Caracas, the city of Bahia de Caracas, north of us here. And this was pre-earthquake and whatever. Before the major earthquake in 2016. And I kind of settled on Bahia. I found a place there that I could rent reasonably cheap. It was near the center of town, not far from the river and the ocean. It was kind of a place where I thought, well, I could settle in and be real happy there. Unfortunately, I got a message from the landlord, the owner of the building, saying that he was putting a third floor on, which had gotten delayed, and would I still like to live on the second floor as they're building a third floor on top of me.
Oh my God.
And I said, no, thank you very much. Well, can I help you find something else? I said, no, I think I'll just look around, I'll find something. So I did. I found a place in Olón that I decided to rent, and moved there in October 2015. And settled in there and lived in Olón for almost 3 years before coming to the Manta area 3.5 years ago.
And you were living there when the earthquake hit, right?
I was in Olón when the earthquake hit, yes. Yeah. 6 years ago almost, very soon. Yeah. Coming up in a couple of weeks,
Yeah.
Yep.
So then somehow you ended up here in Manta.
I did.
So
Olón is notorious for having some beautiful weather, beautiful sunsets this time of year. But then about April or May, it starts getting cloudy there, and it can be cloudy for 6, 7 months, 8 months. I mean, it's just crazy. And the last year I was there, the weather was just so bad, so wet, rainy, damp, and yuck all the time, cloudy, no sun whatsoever. I would walk up the street with a freshly cleaned shirt, and I could smell the mildew in my shirt because it was so bad. And I said, I got to get out of here. I got to get to a drier place. So someone mentioned Manta. I came up to Santa Marianita for a few days. I spent a few days out there and at the Donkey Den out there on the beach. Loved it. Said, I went back to Olón, talked to a friend of mine, and I said, Terry, you really should see this place, because she was having the same problem in her apartment as well, and with the dampness and mold. And so she and I came back up to Santa Marianita to the Donkey Den. Stayed for a week in early July. We were there for the 4th of July. And we both kind of fell in love with it. And so before I left that week, I made an arrangement with the owner there to come back on August 1st and stay. And I stayed there for 5 months. Really loved it. The beach is beautiful out there. It's kind of a wild place. But I don't have a car, don't want a car, and there's very little transportation out there. I got feeling very isolated. I didn't like living there without a car, and I tell people that all the time in my group. Santa Marianita is a beautiful place to live, but you have to have transportation. If not, you'll soon discover that you'll be going crazy. So.
And then plus, people are also finding out when they get in those little remote areas like that, they're not close to access to healthcare.
Wi-Fi, services, shopping, you name it.
It's a great
thing
much there. For a while.
It's a vacation spot.
I
tell people that. It's a vacation spot. And you'll be happy for a few weeks or a month or whatever, but after a while, you'll miss the conveniences, which I did. I'm speaking for myself. I shouldn't say everyone feels that way.
Sure.
But for myself, I missed the conveniences of an actual city and being able to get what I wanted.
Yeah, yeah.
I moved to Manta January, 1st of January, after living on the beach for 5 months, and settled into my apartment here, and I've been here ever since, over 3 years. I've got a great apartment. I've got a great view of the east end of the beach and the port and the harbor, and I really enjoy living here.
I kind of like the relationship that we have, because you see a part of the ocean that I don't see.
Right, yeah. You're the left side, I'm the right side.
I see a part that you don't see.
Yes.
So I like it when you call me and tell me, hey, there's a ship on the way. Something that you know I'll be interested in seeing, like a U.S. Navy ship or a submarine.
I know what you're looking for, sure.
Yeah, so that's the convenience. So people watching this video, there's probably a lot of the people that are watching this video that don't know what you have going on Facebook. Tell us about that.
You're talking about my group?
Yep.
Lots of things going on in Facebook, Don. I don't know if I can talk about all of them. My group is the Manta and Manabi Expats and Amigos. We're a group of closing in on 5,000 members. Probably 25 to 30% of those are actually Ecuadorians who both live here in the States and in Canada, who want to be in touch with Manta and the surrounding area in Manabi province. And the rest are gringos like us, from the United States and Canada, some from England, Australia, South Africa. But I have a wide diversity of membership, and but everybody has the same thing in mind. They're looking for information. We all look for information, as you know. People watching your videos are looking for information. They're doing the same thing in my group. Yep. We welcome questions. We try to do the best we can to answer those questions, to give people the right information, and whatever. We like to keep it informative and friendly, fun if we can,
And you also like to keep control of it too.
I keep very tight control of it. Yes, I do. Yeah,
run a tight ship.
A little general.
Yeah.
And but no, I do, because 95% of the people in my group want that.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's a small percentage of people who want to argue about everything, no matter what it is, who want to complain and have a problem with everything. And my group is just not for that. My group is to keep people smiling, to keep them informed, help them. And I go to bed every night, and you probably do too. I mean, you're doing the same type of thing. When I go to bed at night, I feel that I've helped at least one person.
Yeah, sure.
Some nights I can go to bed and say, I've helped about a dozen people today with problems or questions that they had that really appreciated what I was able to do for them. And that's a good feeling. And that's the kind of feeling I try to keep in the group.
I talk about your group all the time on my channel. I tell people, everybody needs a source of information. And especially when you go into a foreign country and you don't know where you're going, once you step off that airplane.
Right.
But fortunately, when I came here, your site was well established, tons of information. Not to mention the fact that I met the love of my life off of your site. We're not going to
we won't mention that. All right.
but I mean, basically, I was rescued out of a bad situation. Had it not been for your site, now it wasn't called what it's called now. Then it was what was it? You renamed this.
We were Expats and Amigos in Manta. In Manabi, and I've changed it. I actually changed it to Manta, Manabi, Expats and Amigos to get the Manta first, so that when people looked up Manta on Facebook or anyplace else and search, that my group would come up before some of the others have come along that aren't really as informative or as established group as mine.
Sure. So you have a file section. I know this for everybody that needs to go to the home page and look at the column headings at the top. The most important
information bar,
information bar. The most important one is the one called files.
Files.
Because there is a plethora of information in there that you're not going to find anywhere else that I know of.
Right. I started that a couple of years ago, and we put a lot of very, very good information, most of which is still relevant today. Some is not, but most of which still is. And I have one problem in that Facebook changed the way they accept files. And calling me stupid, but I can't figure out how to post files the way that I used to. So for the past year, I haven't posted any new files, and it really troubles me that I can't do that. And at some point, I'm going to have to try to figure that out, but I haven't. I apologize. I haven't, but there's still a lot of good information in the files. We dumped a lot of stuff in there that people can use, doctors, lawyers, Indian chiefs, you name it. I mean, we tried to put everything in there, service people, whatever. So there is a lot of information there. And if there isn't information in the files that you need, we're very, very acceptable, amenable to questions in the group. I have a great group. There's some great people in the group that really go out of their way to help and give people the right answers.
There's people in your group right now, I know specifically, that have left Manta, and some that have even left Ecuador that are still members of your group.
Absolutely.
And still
just stay in touch. To stay in touch with Manta and their friends and people here. Yes, very much. There's quite a few, actually.
So it's a great thing. I brought something with me. It's in my backpack. I got to get it.
All right.
We'll talk about it.
Do I just sit here and smile?
I'll just stay right there. Stay there and look pretty.
Looking pretty is not something. Hi, Expat. All right.
Let's talk about this. Hi, Expat Magazine.
Okay.
Wonderful magazine.
It's a great magazine. Proud to be part of it, actually. Very proud to be part of it.
Full color. I mean, this is
beautiful magazine.
Is pure quality from cover to cover.
The best printer in Ecuador.
Picture.
It's got me in the picture every time, right up front in the magazine.
So
I'm the senior writer.
Okay.
Senior writer for Hi Expat, editorial writer. I pretty much determine what I want to write about, but although I ask the owner, what would you like to see? What's the theme of the magazine for the month? And I try to write to that, but I try to address issues that are Manta and Manabi relative, that are things that people want to talk about, they want to know about, they want to see what's happening, what the future is. I try to stick to that. For the new edition that's coming out, I believe, shortly, as far as the print magazine. The next magazine, the April magazine, which will be out on the 15th online. I've just written an article basically talking about environmental debris from the flooding, the winter flooding that we've had in the coastal rivers. The rivers have come down from the mountains and dump out on the coast and the beaches, and some of the problems and issues that we have with that. Good things, bad things, whatever. Calling on the national government, the president of the national government, to enact a program much like the Johnsons did in the 60s. Lady Bird Johnson with the American Beautification Project.
The Blue Bonnets.
The crying Indian chief, the trash, and very, very poignant advertisement. Certainly a very vivid memory for me in my youth growing up. I remember that like it was yesterday. That's what needs to happen here in Ecuador, and my editorial for April is about that. And hopefully everybody will get a chance to read that.
There's one of the videos that I did a few months ago. I talked about a checklist for people to, that I showed my checklist. What I went through, and it actually grew over a period of years. And when I was finally ready to make my move here, this checklist I finalized it, and this is basically was my Bible for getting here. And on that list is your Facebook page. So I tell people all the time, I always tell people about your Facebook page, Mark Bradbury's Facebook page. I'm going to put a link to it in the description, again, like I always do. And I encourage everybody, get information before you come down here. And I think you agree with that.
Absolutely. Research is something that I did a ton of, as I mentioned earlier. When I made the decision to expat out of the U.S., I read and consumed, watched video. I did everything I could to learn about Ecuador when I made that decision. And then, as I said, broke it down to beaches and beach towns and cities, and and eventually settled in Bahia. I ended up in Olón, and now I'm in Manta. All of them interesting experiences, all good experiences for the most part. Can't say anything really bad other than the weather and alone, which is, is what drove me out of there eventually. But I felt like I didn't move to the beach to be in clouds for 6 or 7 months and rainy and damp. So Manta is so much different than that. Manta claims to have over 300 days a year where they get some sunshine. Some days all day, but some at least, and I probably would agree with it. That's probably true.
Well, one thing for sure about Ecuador, there is an ample supply of microclimates.
There is.
You name the weather,
it's
you
unbelievable.
Can find it.
Unbelievable. I mean, you don't have to travel far. You can leave Manta and Santa Marinita and the hills and La Travesía, and it's dirt. It's desert. I mean, it's just, there's nothing there. Just scrub desert. I mean, and you can go another 10 minutes further south towards San Lorenzo and be in the Pacochi rainforest, a tropical rainforest that's green, lush, almost year-round, that never changes. And then if you go past the rainforest and get to San Lorenzo, the mountain where the famous El Faro lighthouse is, that goes totally brown and burnt out all summer long. I mean, until we start getting the rains in December and January, and now it's lush and green. But a few months from now, that'll all be gone and it'll be different again. It's crazy.
So, before we wrap this up, if there's any really one solid piece of advice that you got to tell somebody that wants to move here, especially when it comes to looking for a place to live, what do you say?
Call me.
Because I personally, you tell me what you think. I personally think that one of the biggest mistakes that some people make is poor choices on whether to buy or rent. And I always say rent first.
Absolutely.
And get used to the place.
Absolutely.
And then buy.
Whenever I have a member in my group talk about, we're coming down and we want to buy a place, and I say, you can buy a place. It's your money, it's your future, whatever. But I would certainly look around, rent. Look around, discover other towns, beaches, whatever, locally, nearby. Put that against Manta, put Manta against San Lorenzo, wherever. And I said, make a choice based on some experience, as opposed to, I want to go to Manta because I heard it's cool there and I can buy a condo. It's the wrong thing to do.
And then you get rent 6 months later, and you find out that it's not quite for you.
I've seen that, and it's funny that places are fairly easy to rent here for the most part, condos, but it's harder to sell condos, and a lot of people here will tell you that. They come in, they buy a condo, 2-3 years later, they want to go someplace else, or they want to, something happens, one of the spouses die, and they want to sell a condo. It's not always that simple to sell a condo here, because of the fact that they're building a lot of new, there's a lot of new product coming up on the market here in Manta. And within the next 2 to 3 years, the market for high-end condominiums is going to just explode here. There's some projects that are just getting started now that are going to be amazing places to live. And so that will change the rental market, the purchase market, whatever. But
it's very dynamic.
Rent first. Manta's got some changes coming up that I think are exciting. A lot of people don't agree with that, but I think they're exciting, and I think that I think we're on the right side of this.
Well, I still think that even with all the new development, there's going to be something for everybody.
Yes. Absolutely.
So.
Absolutely. There are places where you can go to. I have some friends who moved to a project that's about 15 to 20 minutes outside of the city, heading over to Monte Cristi. It's a townhouse development. There's some older buildings and some brand new buildings, and they're building another 100 or more new buildings that are townhouses, 2 and 3 bedroom units, garage, and they're small, but they're very reasonably priced. And it's a great community, very well kept. I mean, so there are a lot of places. If you want to live in a place like you might live in Florida or in Arizona, like whatever, you're familiar with what I'm talking about.
Sure.
This type of place, and it's not the only one, but this one particular one I went to. This can be an answer for people to live relatively inexpensively, to get started and have a new home, whatever. Or you can go rent or buy a condo on the ocean, which there should be plenty of availability over the next few years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So before we run out of time, I've got one more question I want to ask you.
Okay.
Because there's a lot of talk about the new income requirements that are going to be placed on the visas to come here. A lot of people are freaking out over that. What do you say to the person that has like less than $1,000 in a pension fund and they want to come here? I tell them this may not be the place for them.
Exactly right.
What do you say?
Exactly right. I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. It's the numbers that they're talking about raising it to, or I think that's been passed already, hasn't it?
It has.
Yeah.
It just hasn't been written on the archives yet. So
I think that those numbers aren't so high that the average person can't meet them. I think that if people need to struggle with a $1,200 a month revenue stream, who say, I can't make it, well, that's tough.
Yeah.
And it's only going to get tougher because inflation has hit Ecuador. It's hit Manta. Manta is probably the hottest city right now in Ecuador, not just on the coast, but certainly on the coast.
Yeah.
There's so much going on. There's so much investment dollars coming into Manta with new projects, and both commercial and residential.
yeah.
It's not going to get cheaper to live here.
Right.
So people need to think that, Mexico has requirements too, and they're high.
They're even higher. They're like $2,600.
Yeah.
So.
Costa Rica, Panama. I mean, all these countries are looking at saying, okay, if expats want to come here, they need to be able to live on their own.
Yeah. Well, we could sit here and talk for hours about all this stuff. I want to thank you for your time.
Oh,
I'm going to put
Thanks for
a link
having
to
me.
your Facebook page in the description. I'm also going to put a link to the Expat Magazine in the description.
Great.
I'm going to encourage people to get in touch and join your site. You know.
Absolutely.
They should
We
do
welcome
that
everybody.
right off the bat. Just to because of the fact that there's so much information available. So
Good.
I appreciate your time. Thank you so
Dan.
much.
Thanks for the interview.
That's a wrap.
Hey.
Today I'm going to be demonstrating how to defend yourself if your mom ever comes swinging at you with a sandal. This right here is my brother. He's going to be playing my mom. So let's say you did something wrong, right? And she swings at you. Pop! Now you have wrist control. What you want to do now is move the trajectory of the sandal away from your face and then pivot inward. From here, you can either break her arm. What I like to do is turn it around. Pop! Now she's disarmed and you have full control. Hey! Show me. Okay, guys, this is my actual mom. Let's do this one more time. So let's say she swings at you, right?